Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is Into the Woods, and I'm Dwayne.
This is Denise. This is Danita.
And we are so excited that you are with us tonight. Tonight, we are talking about that interesting topic parenting. Yeah, that's right. Everybody's got an opinion about how to parent, what's the best parent, who's the good parent. And so, we're going to spend some time talking about that as it relates to us. This is Into the Woods. As you know, we are here because our names are Woods and because we think a lot of people are in the trees, they're in the bushes, they're in the forest sometimes, they're confused, they're not sure what to do. And as you get to know a little bit about us, the Woods, we hope that we can all come out of the woods together. Hey guys, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good. We're okay. Fine.
Yeah. I know some of us are a little under the weather.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's going on. It's not fun to be sick in the summertime when it's hot.
No.
I mean, it's not good to be sick anytime, but
No.
summertime. It's interesting. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
having some illness in our house this week, so I've been lucky enough to not get sick, but I'm starting to feel a little tickle in the throat.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see.
Huh?
We'll see. All right. So, just for those of you guys who are joining us for the first time, we are the Woods. That's our last name. There are six of us, but you only see three of us on the screen right now. The three Ds: Dwayne, Denise, and Danita. We also have Natalie, James, and Trevor. They're out there somewhere. And we hopefully will have them on at some point. We can get them on camera. But if you've not already done so, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, like this video, and send it to your family, for your friends, and then go back and watch some of the others that we've done. Some very interesting topics that we've discussed, and tonight is going to be no exception because, like I said, we are talking about parenting, and
Yes.
and Denise, who's not feeling well, she's the one who came up with this topic. Excuse me. So I'm not gonna ask you to give a big explanation about why you chose this
Uh-huh.
topic,
Uh-huh.
but when you sent the topic to me, my text back to you was feels a little uncomfortable, but we can do it. And you said, why was it uncomfortable? And it was uncomfortable because sometimes as a parent, I sometimes feel like I'm not making it. Like I'm falling short
Right.
of where I need to be.
Uh-huh.
And so sometimes even having the conversation about, what are you doing
Yeah.
is a bit uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
And I think there are a lot of people out there who, because you know what, when we were at the hospital, they just gave us the kid. They said,
Yes.
hey, take him home. No book, no manual, no piece of paper, no warranty, nothing.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
And so we've just been kind of playing it by ear, but there are some things that we'll talk about tonight. So I'm gonna just throw it out to you guys. When you think of parenting, right?
Mhm.
And then you guys are gonna share a unique perspective on that. What do you think when you think parenting?
I'm
I
just
don't know
raising.
what.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dania.
No, I was just my eyes got big. It's scary when you think parenting. Like I don't know what to do. Just like Dwayne said, there's no book,
Yeah. You,
so it's just a
you,
scary thing. You just do what you think is right, and you just go from there. Denise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, you go from there, or you try to, which most people do. You ask for advice, or you try to mimic what you've seen previously with your parents, or maybe friends that are doing things. You try to mimic what they do, but at the end of the day, you can only start from where you are and what you think your child needs. So, for
Mm-hmm.
parenting, that's what I think it is for me.
Right. Right. Okay. And I guess because I read these books and they're what do you think the point of parenting is? What do you guys think what is the goal of parenting?
To raise your child so that they're a productive part of society, to achieve what it is that they want to achieve. Sometimes we say we want them to be part of society, but sometimes maybe society is not really like the best thing to mimic. You find your own path. So you try to make them, as we are talking, find your own path, find your own habits, figure out what it is that you need to do to make yourself happy. So that's what I think it is.
Okay. Um. So society. So making them a part of society. So teaching them to, I guess, basically be a productive member of society is what we want.
Yes.
As I started to say, there's this book and this concept that I have been using, and I think my primary function right now is to help Blake, and I'm going to use this word, launch well, right? And that's the idea that the book made. So, and it comes from, when you are building ships, right? You do everything you can so that when that ship launches,
Mm-hmm.
it basically can function out in the water.
Right.
And so I sometimes take my goal to equip Blake so that when he gets out there in the water, he launches well and he's able to function, which is, the same idea of being part of society. So what do you think? And I'm not going to say good or bad parent, okay?
Okay.
Because parents are where they are. I mean, there are things that sometimes parents do, and I'll give you guys a couple of stories here as we go through. Sometimes there are things that we do that's what we know right now.
Right.
And we look back, we're like, oh my God, did I really say that? Did I really do that? Did I really handle it in that way? But what do you think are some features of a parent, and what kind of characteristics that a parent need to have? Other than, okay, this is the child that I birthed, or,
Uh, a good listener, much like what you want um, from a friend or relationship, because it is a relationship at the end of the day. A good listener, someone who could give advice as much as they can, um, and to help them, as you would say, launch, right? So I can't give Javon, who's my son, more than what I know. I could go research it, or if he brings me something, we could talk about it. But a parent, I think, is someone who works in tandem with their child to help them to be the best person they can be.
okay. What do you think, Danita?
I agree.
Okay. So works in tandem.
I
I don't, you know.
Okay. Um, so let's kind of walk through a couple of things, right? So first of all, let's go back to us. Okay.
Okay.
So that's where we're gonna start. And then we'll come into our children. So we'll start with our parents,
Mhm.
then where we are, and then okay, now each of us have children. So we'll talk about them because we're now the parent. So there were 6 of us.
Yes.
And I'll have to be honest, I don't know how they did it with 6, because the one that I have sometimes,
It's
like
enough.
I mean, what do you think it was like to have 6 children?
Crazy, because you have different personalities and you have to cater to each one of them. And you have to have that relationship with each one of them differently. So it was a challenge, I'm sure.
Mm, yeah, because we all are 6 interesting characteristics, 6 interesting personalities. Um, and our parents didn't, and let's kind of go through and I kind of think, physical, mental, social, psychological, spiritual, right? So and we kind of walk through those. So our parents did not go to college, didn't graduate from college.
Right.
But education was a huge part of really their direction for us.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
Very much
was.
so.
In fact,
Because-
now, go ahead, Anita.
No. Finish. No. Go ahead.
I was going to say in one of the episodes we talked about that show Wonderama, and that was the whole point of Wonderama, right? We hated that show because when that show was done, it was education. It was writing an essay, reading a book. It was not just hanging out on Sunday.
Yeah, because with education, it opens up a lot of doors to different things. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're exposed to different things. You can read different things. It'll take you different places. You get different interests. So
Right.
that's why, it's so important.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, sometimes I'm listening to Blake, or I am around people who have taken education to a whole new level. There's, you got to get into the right kindergarten.
Hmm.
You got to go to the right prep school. You got to get the right scores. You got to get to the right Ivy League school. What do you think? What do you think of all of those? Now, let me back up and say to everyone that I'm not knocking education, right? So what do you think of those? Okay, we got to get into this place. That's where we're heading. We're heading to can we call schools? Yeah, sure. We're heading to a Harvard or a Stanford or to Yale or to, wherever.
But
Right.
who wants that though? The parent or the child wants that, and
Well,
is
maybe
that
I want that. I think Blake would do great at Harvard because I want that for him.
But see,
Right.
sometimes as to the Deetz's point, parents make those kind of mistakes. That's a
Mm,
mistake that sometimes parents make. We want so much what we think is right for the child, but we're not paying attention to what the child wants. And then you
mm,
might get rebellion and you don't understand why that's happening. And it's because you're forcing someone to do something. You might be forcing someone to do
Right.
something they don't want to do. Right?
right.
Right.
So all of that is great as long as the child is on board with that direction. If
Hmm.
they're not, then it becomes a problem.
Right.
Parents need
Right.
to understand that.
Right. So how do you guys how do you think the thrust or the push to education when we were growing up was handled? Do you think it was and not a judgmental, but do you think it was appropriate? Do you think it was not enough? What do you think?
I think it was enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think again we spoke about our surroundings and how we were brought up. We had a lot of people who were doing those things anyway. So in turn, because we were associating by ourselves with people who were doing that, when it was presented to us by mommy or daddy, Aku daddy, whatever, I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. It wasn't like, oh, you're making me go to this. I don't really want. We already wanted to go because our
Right.
friends were doing it.
Right,
So
right.
we were moving along with the train because we were already on it. If we weren't on it now, that would have been an issue,
Mm, okay.
right?
So
But now we have
you
to
think
go
we were
forward.
already associated, so it wasn't a big deal.
It wasn't a
Right.
big deal. Our surroundings. Excuse me, everybody. I'm nasal. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
um, our surroundings afforded us to have that insight as to say, okay, well, this is our next step. If
Right.
we didn't want to go to maybe a specific school, we had the opportunity to learn about someplace else.
Hmm.
So we're already there.
Okay. All right. Um, all right. So it's education, right? And in one of our other shows, we talked about the kind of spiritual social aspect, which revolved much about around church. Okay.
Yeah.
And so our dad was not a big churchgoer, um, but he allowed us to be involved with all the things associated with church.
Sure it did. He didn't let us watch TV on Friday night. He used to take it off. Y'all remember that? He used to take off TV.
Right. So he was surrounded with those things, and even though he may not have gone, he made sure that spiritually we kind of that was something that was taken care of.
Right.
Now I'll tell you one of the things that I miss now that I am grown
Okay.
was probably the physical, right? And when I say that, like I remember wanting to play football,
Uh-huh.
and I remember going to Midwood
Okay.
to try out for football, but I had gotten into Brooklyn Tech,
Okay.
and I remember that he came and got me well, it was Grady and Midwood, right? So Midwood at the time, and then everybody, Chris and all of them were going to Grady, and because I'd gotten to Brooklyn Tech, I had to go to Brooklyn Tech, but I wanted to play football, and so I never really developed. I mean, I still like football, but not like I would have had I gone to play football. So that's one thing that I would have liked to do that.
Well, yeah. Go ahead, Dalia.
No. I didn't have any written things finished.
Okay. Well, I mean, but you didn't do that. You didn't do that, and you found another path.
I
So,
found
as
another
much
path.
yeah, as much as you might have wanted to do football in that moment,
Hmm.
and that moment,
Right.
um, you went another path, and so looking back, you say, "Yeah, I still like football, but I think I like this better," because you finally found who you are through that journey that you took, right? So that
Hmm.
was part of your journey anyway, saying that you wanted to do football. If you really wanted football, somehow, some way, you would have found yourself playing football if that's truly what you wanted, right? But the path took you to where all the things that you developed and understood that you wanted, and so here we are.
So interesting comment that you made there was that um, they made the choice at that time, right? And so sometimes I think as parents, that is really kind of our function, is with the wisdom that we have to make choices. Because there are times that there are things that Blake doesn't want to do at that
Right,
moment. Like he
right,
doesn't want to practice his piano sometimes,
right,
right? But it's like, no, dude, you got to practice.
right.
And so we make those choices for our kids, and I think that's part of the function that we have, that we look down the road and we make choices. Now, I have to admit something, that there are times. Let me give you an example. So we're in church, and Blake was doing something that really wasn't a big deal to me, right? And somebody else made a comment about it.
Mhm.
And so I stopped Blake because
Okay.
I was embarrassed. I was not that Blake was doing something I thought was wrong,
Mhm.
right? But as the parent, I was embarrassed that this other person had made this comment. So I stopped him from doing it.
Right.
And I think that's where, and I think Danita, you may have alluded to that before. You said, well, why do we want the child to do that thing? Right? Why do we want them to go to the school? Why do we want them to, even why do we want them to play football or basketball or play an instrument sometimes? And sometimes it has nothing to do with what we want for the child, but
Right.
it is something that we are getting.
Mhm.
Right.
Does
How
that make
we're being
sense?
looked at. It's about us. It's a
Yeah.
selfish move.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're a better parent. People will think I'm a better parent if my child, blah, blah, blah.
Right. You
Yeah.
feel a sense of pride.
Right.
Mm,
Right. Everybody's looking and I'm doing this great thing. I'm
right.
doing this great thing. But it's actually
Right.
the child, right? So
Yeah.
we're actually projecting. And it's not fair. It's not a
Hmm.
fair thing
Right.
to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
child notices because the child will notice because you didn't stop me until whoever came and said something. So now I'm being maybe stopped from doing something that's pleasing to me and something that you initially didn't think was wrong because somebody else said something. So now they're looking at you like,
Yeah, dude,
okay,
what's up?
yeah, what's going on?
Right.
If it's okay with me, and if it's okay with you, why when somebody comes and tells you something, now you change? So now they're looking
Hmm.
at you. You can't make a decision without someone saying, "Oh, this is okay." So
Right.
now you start to make thoughts about how you think. Excuse me.
Okay. All right. So that's our parents, right? So spiritual, we talk about physical, educational, and we kind of mentioned that. What other things do you think you picked up from our house, from our home?
In terms of parenting,
in terms of how you were parented?
Good, bad, or different, or just
Just I don't know.
what I say goes, regardless if it makes sense or not. That kind of stuff.
well, I learned going back to something that you said. I learned to listen and let Javon explain to me why he might want to do something, or if he chooses to go a certain path, I might talk to him about it, but I won't ever dissuade him from
Hmm.
doing it until he chooses. Now, if it's taking a long time and you can't figure out, well, then okay, this is what we're doing. But I give you the choice, or give him the choice to explain to me why he wants to do it. Do your research and present it to me, and let's have that conversation. Because
Hmm.
there was a time I wanted to do something, and I was told I couldn't do it, and that's always stuck with me because I need to do what you wanted me to do. But me as a child, I had no choice to make a decision for my life. And so that was a problem for me for quite some time. So when
Hmm.
I had to one, I made the decision that I'm not gonna force him to be something that he might not. I can give him a suggestion, no problem. Hey, why don't you do this? I'm thinking you'd be good at that. Okay, well, I'm not interested. Okay, well, what are you interested in? Let's have that conversation.
Hmm.
So from the house, from our upbringing, I learned to listen to what he wants to, because at the end of the day, it's his life. It's not mine. I'm living it, lived it, and it's his turn. And I
Okay.
think that's fair.
All right. And so I guess let's make a point there that there are several ways that we all interpret things that go on in our lives, right? So our lives really are series of choices, and there's sometimes something happens, and we decide, okay, I'm gonna do just like that. Okay, I like that thing. That's how I'm gonna function. That's my outlook on it. Then there are times that we see something and we say, no, 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 I don't like that. So I'm going to do, sometimes it's actually the opposite of what was done. Right. And then there are sometimes that we don't realize how something has affected us, as we've said before in some of our shows. Right. And so the things that go on in our homes can have lots of different results or eventualities in our own lives. And we're going to come talking about how we are now doing parenting. But that's why it's so important at home to be conscious of the fact that sometimes kids, we could say some stuff, but they don't always hear what we say, but they sure enough do what we do.
Right.
Right? They turn out just, yeah. It's like, well, I never wanted him to do that. Well, guess what? You kept saying don't do it, but that's what you did. So interesting. I think so. I heard somewhere where they say that kids catch more of what they see than what they hear. I think that's how the saying goes.
Yeah.
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 Cool. All right. All right. So now us. So we are parents. And you guys are ahead of me. So, you guys going to run this part of the show. Give me, each of you, right, as a parent, one thing that you think you learned that you didn't know that you did well in raising your child. And hey, you know what? All three of us, we have sons.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So let me repeat it. One thing
Uh-huh.
that we didn't know that we did well.
Yeah, one thing
We
that you
weren't
didn't
aware
know,
that
like
we
you didn't,
accomplished a goal.
with your
That
child. Yeah, with your child.
independence.
Right.
My
Okay,
son is
independence.
very
Tell me
independent.
about that.
Well, so let me backtrack and start the story and come forward. When he was younger, he would do nothing without saying, "Is this okay? Is that okay?" He wouldn't write a word. He wouldn't do a math problem. And so I said, "Well, then do it and then show me. Do it and then show me." And he was angry with me for years. Fast forward to now. He can do every and anything by himself. He'll sit, he'll think about it, he'll go through all the problems, and he'll make his decision. And he doesn't need me for anything. Sometimes I feel bad. Like, you don't need me for anything. Like, he's like, no. Is this what you wanted? I'm like, but yeah. But still. So I didn't realize that I did that well. Because he can really do things on his own. And so, yeah, that's what I learned that I did that I didn't know that I did.
Okay.
That's
Okay. Good. Good. And that's a good one. And so a question for you, teasing that out a little bit. Why did you do that?
because I needed him to be able to function without me. I
Mm,
didn't need for him to freeze because I wasn't there to say it's okay.
mm,
You have to be able to make a decision and move forward. And if you make a decision and you need my help in some way down the road with that decision, then fine. But I need you to move forward. I'm going to be there, but you have to make this decision. You can't
right.
just rely on me all the time because I'm not going to always be there.
Okay. All right. Like it. All right, Denise.
Oh, okay. Well, piggybacking off her, but also with ambition. I never realized that he would be as ambitious as he is. And Javon has grown up with me doing a lot of things to elevate myself, and I just thought I did it just because I needed to do it for to benefit of ourselves, not realizing that he was watching me.
Mm.
And so as he got older, he started talking to me about different things. And I'm looking at him like, okay, well, where'd you pick that up from? Not realizing that all the things that I was doing, the hustling, bustling, and running and doing this and making sure that we were okay and making, go to school and stuff like that. He was watching me. I didn't realize that so as far as that, I would say ambition as well.
Okay. All right. I think one of the things that um, I see in Blake, and he's 13, just turned 13, by the way. Woohoo! It's a couple of days ago, so I've got a teenager now. What?
Yes.
Woo! But Blake is a thinker. Blake is a thinker, and I wasn't like we didn't set, I mean, that's something, of course, you want your child to be, but I didn't know how that would happen, right? But sometimes to hear him sit and have a conversation
Uh-huh.
with me, or even sometimes I'm standing off and he's talking to maybe some of the kids, some of his friends, or I see him interact with them.
Uh-huh.
um I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's a thinker. And not that that is necessarily surprising, but I think we did and are doing that well without knowing it, you know. So that's one that sometimes I'm like, oh, okay. Because
Right?
sometimes like, oh, okay, what are we doing? Oh my god,
Yeah. It's shocking
we're
sometimes when
breaking him, we're breaking him.
it's shocking when you see certain things that like, oh, that they're doing that well.
Right.
It kind of creeps up on you, and
Hmm.
then you're shocked, like, wow, I
Right.
didn't know that was happening. So
Yeah. All right. And then now, thinking back, is there something that you wish you knew that you didn't know? Not necessarily something that you see that's, I don't want to say wrong in your child, but is there something you think like, oh, I wish I had done, or I wish I knew this thing?
Uh-huh.
well, I really can't say there's something I wish I knew
Mm-hmm.
because to say that, I guess it would kind of indicate that something is wrong,
Wrong.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I knew what I knew. I did what I had to do. I've learned as I've gone forward, and so I don't know what I wish I knew. I
Mhm.
really can't answer that question.
Right, I concur. Because you don't know what you don't know when
Mhm.
you get the kids. You don't know what you don't know. You know what you've seen. You don't
Right.
know what you're capable of doing as a parent. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we all do the best that we can, and again, like we're surprised when the kids do certain things, but you don't know what you don't know
Mhm.
until you start the process
Right.
of parenting.
Right.
Right. One of the things that I loved when we were growing up, and we've talked about this, is just kind of the community that we had, and our house. It wasn't like, eight is enough or Brady Bunch, where people just running around the place, but um, we had friends. We did dinner at the house.
Yeah.
We cooked food. And sometimes I'm wondering, where did we get the money? Right?
All right.
No frills.
Nope. All right, all right. Does anybody even know what no frills is? You know what? When I came up there the other day, I went to I walked down the Pathmark.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, look at this. And I just walking around, all the memories just came flooding back. So Danita, what's new? You brought it up. What's no frills?
No frills are the store brand items. So it's not the name brand items, it's the Pathmark brand items. And they had a specific aisle for them. They had a white paper wrapped around it, and if it was beans, it says beans, no frills.
That's
You know,
it.
you're not getting
No,
any
no,
color.
I don't even think it said no frills. I just think it said
The
Did
red
it?
line, the blue line, in the middle, it was no frills.
it said beans, or if it was cereal, it was cereal. It was in a white box.
Yes.
But the
No
best thing
special
was
advertisement,
with
none of that. It was just,
Yes.
that's what it was.
Sometimes I go to like Sam's or Walmart, and they have the member mark. Like that's the Walmart brand.
Okay.
And for those of you who are out there, if you were at Walmart and you saw no frills, it would be like it was the brand name, right? And then there was the store brand,
Yes.
and below the store brand was no frills.
So there you have it.
Yes.
And that's how we fed all the people.
That's how we ate. We were like, I remember
And
it
No
was.
Frills had sales. Don't forget.
They did. I remember my grandfather. We would take the cart, and he would be in front, full of with the thing full of whatever,
Yeah.
and then here comes the rest of us coming behind him with the no frill stuff. But yeah, buddy, and shoot, and food stamps. Don't forget the food stamps.
Don't forget the food stamps. That's
Don't
true.
forget the food stamps. And it was wow. See, now I said that.
That's how
You know,
we did
but you
it.
know what I love though?
What?
The no frills raisin brand was the bomb. That with
And don't forget
some
the peanut butter, the crunch. That
what?
you had
Crunch?
the Jiffy, right?
Yep.
Then you had the no frills,
Which was
Crunch.
way better.
which was
It
way
was.
better because it's like they threw all the nuts in there from wherever they got all the nuts were there.
all the leftover nuts got into
Yes. And every time you scooped it up, you had a bunch of nuts. But it was crunch,
True.
okay?
Ooh.
Compounded
And I
with
remember. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Denise.
Huh?
Go ahead.
I said that compounded with Dottie's fresh bread on a Friday afternoon, right before we. It was the best. You didn't hear a peep for like 2 hours because it was fresh bread and no frills. We were good.
I was just about to talk about the bread, and I don't know if you guys remember that my friends would come over.
For the rolls, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the rolls.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, it's like, did you guys come to see me, or did you come to get some bread?
Bread.
But that
Because they always showed up on the right day.
There you go.
Absolutely. The adults in our lives were so supportive that Dottie used to. Dottie is our grandfather, by the way. We call
Hmm.
him Dottie. He was so supportive, and majority of the adults in our lives were supportive, that he would make the individual bread for your friends and put
Yeah.
it to the side so that when they did come, and if they needed more, he would make more for them.
Yep.
So
The following
Yeah.
week.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So, so parenting, right? And everybody has an idea about parenting, and I kind of told you mine. My job is to get Blake launched, and of course there are certain things that I think I need, he needs to know. And I found myself now just really kind of showing him stuff around the house. I had to change the flap in the tank in the toilet, so I showed him how to take that off. We had a toilet that was stopped up, right? So we went and got one of those snakes, and I showed him. He's like, "Why do I need to know this?" I said, "Come on, let's go." I showed him how to change a tire. As a matter of fact,
Right.
Charmaine took a picture. This was like, that one was a couple years ago. This other
yeah,
stuff is recent. So as I'm doing things around the house now, I find myself calling him and saying, "Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at that." And I was outside maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was cutting, limbs, and they were getting ready to pick up the big trash or whatnot in our area. And so I went out early in the morning and I cut, and I cut for about 2 hours. And so then he came out and he was helping me. It took us longer to clean the stuff up. And I actually felt, Danita, I'm going to use the word some pride, right? That here was my son. I mean, he was working right along with me. Like this little kid that I brought home, he could fit right in my arm right here.
Mm-hmm.
And here he was. There was a tree that we had, and I told him, I said, "Hey, all the branches that you could touch, that could touch the top of your head, need to come down." So he took the lopper, and he cut them, and it was a lot. And he did them. I mean, he complained a little bit. At one time, I looked up and he was gone. I was like, "Come on!" He was in here drinking water. I said, "Come on out." But when we see them, right, doing those things, like Danita, you say, "Oh man, look at that! Look at what happened. That's amazing." So Charmaine and I are raising Blake, right? And we kind of tag team each other, right? She takes him here, I take him there. When she can't do, I do this. Tell us a little bit about your experiences. What was that like?
Well, we didn't have tag team. I mean, when the boys were small, we tagged each other, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
our sons are the same age, right? We're twins, and our sons are the same age. So we kind of had each other to bounce things off of, but we didn't have their fathers weren't there, so we didn't really have that, I guess, male support.
Mm-hmm.
If that's part of your question.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it could have gotten it did get difficult, especially as they got older. They're boys, there's certain things they want to do, and it's kind of hard as a female just raising them on your own. But I mean, it got difficult at some points because we didn't have that male figure to kind of bounce the necessary, I guess, male things off of,
right.
and get that backing front to say, no, you can't do this, or you should be doing that, or, so yes, it was
Right.
a little difficult.
Yeah, I concur. We we worked with each other as much as we could for them. If we didn't know something, if Javon came and asked me something I didn't know, I sent him to Danita, vice versa. But you would say that we were single parents, are single parents, right? But we work together, so it's two females raising boys, and so yeah, it was a little difficult in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And did you find, and Danita, you alluded a little bit to it, to have that backing to say no, you can't such and such. how did you handle? Because even now, Blake is 13,
Right.
and he can be pretty opinionated, right?
Uh-huh.
And as boys grow, they become opinionated and they grow in physical ability, right? So how did you guys handle being female, the parent, and with this boy, this teenage boy that's growing, that may not agree with something you're telling him to do?
Well, we shared some stories with you when we visited, so we're not going to go deep into it now, but you kind of have to man up.
Yeah.
A better
That's the word.
description, like you really have to sometimes go toe to toe with them, and I'm not talking physically, but you have to let them know that I'm the boss. You know what I mean? And you have to listen to me, and you're not going to just do whatever you feel like. Sometimes
Right.
it means putting them out,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
You
for
have to
sure.
find your ways of doing it, and that's where difficulty came in.
Yeah.
If there was a male there, it's go see such and such. I'm not dealing with you with this. But if it's not, yeah, they weren't there, so we had to man up and really just take control of the situation the best way we knew how or could
Yeah.
to get the message through. Yeah.
Mm.
So,
And so I see your boys now, your young men. I shouldn't say boys. Wow. I see young men now, and when I talk to them, once again, this whole idea of them being thinkers comes across, right? How do you and then how do you think? I'm trying to see what am I trying to ask? Well, let me ask it a different way. Somebody's out there right now, they're watching this, right? And they may have a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. What advice? I mean, both general parenting or even as a single mom, what advice would you guys give them right now?
Denise, you can have
As
this
far,
one.
oh, oh, thank you. As far as just raising them,
Yeah, just in general. I mean, I don't have a specific. I was trying to formulate a question, but just in general, what advice would you give people out there? Because like you said, there is no manual, and sometimes, I mean, yeah, you feel like, oh my God, what am I doing?
be who you need to be for you and your child. Even though we say we mimic and we try to, but you can only do as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And again, once you form a bond with your child, which is what we all have, and that's what you need to have as a single parent, we needed to. And Dania talked about making Nate independent, and I did too, and having them be ambitious. Form that bond with your child, and once you have that strong bond with your child, you guys can move in tandem until that child becomes old enough to branch out, but they will still look to you for guidance as well. So don't do more than you're capable of doing until you're able to do more.
Mm.
Do what you can for you and your child. Move together because they're small, so they have to move you go where you go. Don't push yourself further because you're gonna lose and the child's gonna lose more.
Mm.
So just pace yourself. And that's my advice.
Wow, I
And know
like
your
that.
child.
Absolutely.
You have to know your child. We spoke earlier about um, pretending and being prideful as parents, but you know your child, know what your child needs,
Right.
right? And give them that. There's going to be things that they want that they should not get. So you're going
Right.
to be a parent and take care of that as well. But you have to know your child because you don't want to push them either. Because the bond that Denise just mentioned, it's fragile, right? So don't overdo anything, like she said. Don't push them too far. Don't know who they are. It's the same thing as adults. They're little adults that we are grooming, right?
Absolutely.
You
Yes.
know your child, know the people that you're dealing with. But since we're talking about children, Know who your
Right.
child is. They have a personality from birth.
Yes, they do.
So you need to
They
pay
do. They
attention.
do. They do.
Yeah.
They do. And the boundaries, as we
Yeah.
all need in our
Set
lives. Have
boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Even though you have that relationship, that boundary has to be precedent. We're
Right.
cool. We could be, but I'm still the parent. Just
Mm.
Right.
understand that. Beyond everything else that we go through, I'm still the parent. So if I say we must do this, then take my word for it. We must do this. And maybe I'll explain to you or maybe not, but we have to do this. The boundary has to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't make me man up.
Don't make don't make me man up.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the one of the dangers in our current society is that we try to be the child's friend,
Yes.
and we damage the parent child relationship in
Right.
favor of I'm just going to be your friend.
Friend. Yeah. Can't do that. You can't do
And
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I don't
Then they
because
just
that
run rampant. Sorry.
Right.
no go.
No, I'm just saying they run rampant because where are the boundaries? That's where the parents,
Right.
the definition of parent is parents like a boundary, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to guide you, right? And if I'm just your friend, I'm not guiding you anywhere. You do whatever it is that you want,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, they just run
Yeah.
amok, and you can't have that.
Right. Wow. One of the so Blake and I, we read, and we have not done that here in a little bit. But I would, when he was growing up, we would sit and we'd read, all the books and all the books about body parts and changes that are going to go through. We started reading those several years ago, and that was one thing that I didn't have growing up, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I decided for myself that was something that I would, do with Blake to have those conversations so that he knows that there are some changes that are going to happen in his body as he gets older, and that those are natural changes, those are normal changes, and that he can have a conversation with me about those changes.
Right.
And of course, typical, 12-year-old or whatever age he was, 10, 9,
Yeah.
it was all kind of silly for him. And, what are we talking about that? But, we would read and we'd leave the books. And, of course, he read the book. And one time he asked me an interesting question that we won't talk about here. And I said, "Oh yeah." So then I had to remind myself that you're the one who opened up this. You're the one who opened up this portal of conversation. So there it is, right? So for me, that has been a great thing that I think I've done to be able to have those kind of conversations with him as he grows into a young man. And then talking to him about, some things that are coming up, I was talking to a friend of mine. He said, I think I forgot how old he was. He was too young to talk to him about that. I said, no. I said, no, it is not.
Right.
I said, the mistake we make sometimes is we wait too long.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, by the time we have, you know what? By the time we have a conversation with them, they already know.
Right.
Exactly.
They know so much stuff, right? And they're sexual, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and that's you asked how we handle. We have boys.
Mhm.
Can you imagine having that conversation with the boys?
Well, that's why I brought it up, because I was about to say to you all, as a guy, I know how to have that conversation, right? Or I think I knew how to have that conversation, right? Thank God for the books, right? that kind of helped me with the conversation. Because I'll tell you, our father, my dad, had one conversation with me,
Right.
like a one, for like forever, right? And so there were a lot of things that happened that I learned, from outside of our house, right? So
Right.
people outside,
Yeah.
And so like I said, I wanted to make sure that that happened. So how did you guys, being female, handle those conversations with your boys?
Oh, I don't. Did we have the conversation,
I
or they just
know
learned it?
my son would ask a lot of questions, and I just answered them as truthfully as I could.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I didn't sit him down and say, okay, we're going to talk about this yet. Now I'm like, I don't know what we talk about. So he
Right.
had to come to me with questions.
Right.
And when he did, I would just answer them the best I knew how. I couldn't sugarcoat it. I didn't know nobody to call.
Right. Mine is different than yours. I don't know. I can give you the answers that I have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
if we had, a male around, we would ask the question,
Right.
or ask them to ask them the questions, because we didn't have it. We didn't have those answers for them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah.
And Danita, I'm glad you said that you answered them to the best of your ability
Right.
and truthfully, right? Because sometimes we make the mistake of trying to be too sheepish
Mhm.
with sexuality, and let's just say, I mean, yeah, we try to be too sheepish with it,
Mhm.
and it doesn't serve us or our children well, right? I think a frank conversation is warranted, right? I'm thinking of another conversation we had. So we had this book, right? And so we're reading through the book, and I had the book. I mean, Blake was maybe 9, so I'm reading through the book, and I'd gone through the chapters, and I know which chapters I'm leading to and what's coming up next. And so I'm reading, and he is not staying in the chapters that we're reading. He's moving forward, right? And so one day I'm reading chapter about, I forget, it was something about, he's gonna, hair growth, right? And he said, "Daddy, they said some white stuff is going to," and I said, "What was?" Right? So I had to pivot, and I mean that's my point in saying this. So I wasn't. I don't know that. Yeah, and we had other conversations leading up to this, right? Talking about what changes were going to happen, and so now we're having this conversation. So I had to pivot and say, okay, boom, here it is. This is the conversation. So we had that, and so he asked some very appropriate questions. Right, appropriate questions in that area, right? And so we had that, and boom, there it was. When we sugarcoat or hide this conversation about sexuality, or not answer them like you're saying, Danita, then our kids, who are very curious, for those of you watching, kids, I mean, they are immensely curious, right? Think about that baby, right, who's not even walking yet, right? What are they doing? They're grabbing stuff and putting them in their mouths because they're trying to figure out the texture and the shape, and they see the colors, right? So kids are very curious. So the best way to get a child to go find something that you didn't want them to find is to hide it.
Yes.
Right. So if you don't want them to look, if you don't want them to touch something, or sorry, if you want them to look something, go hide it somewhere. The child will find it. Right. Same thing with information. If we hide it, if we sugarcoat it, if we're not honest, then the child will go get information, and sometimes the information that they get is not the appropriate information. And that's why I say to Blake all the time, hey, dude, it's us. Right. So I'm open with you. I tell you, we talk, we have conversations. If you got a question, this is where you come to get your information.
Right. True.
So, and then here, we got all kind of books all around there.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So, what else?
I I don't
What
know.
are two? What are one, two, three? What are four things? And we're gonna we're not just one of you give me all the four, but all three of us are gonna come. What are four things that you think every child who leaves a house should know? Danita, you give me one. Denise, you give me one. I'm gonna give one, and then maybe we'll come up with one. All the three of us. Well, four things
4 things before leaving the house
before
as
they
an
leave your
adult.
house. Anybody's house, any parent's house. Four things they should know.
Finances.
Finance. Okay. All right. Finances.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you-
Go three.
you
I am so stuck right now.
you hit one already. You said independence, right? 'Cause
Independence.
right.
Independence is
There
what?
you go.
And I'm gonna say
Ambition,
problem solving.
problem solving.
Right.
Right. So kind of problem solving / critical thinking.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right. And one more. So we said finances, we said independence, critical thinking / problem solving, and what else?
Communication.
Communication. Okay.
Because if they don't know how to speak, they can speak to us. If they
Mhm.
don't know how to speak to others, they might not get the information that they need or want because
Okay.
they don't know how to ask for it.
Right. Right. Good.
Yeah.
And I think, and we don't say this, but I'm going to say it out loud because it's a part, we don't say it because it's a part of us, our upbringing. I think every child needs to have a sense of themselves in relationship to the creator.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I said, we don't say it because, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
But I think, and the reason I say that is this sense of self, first of all, to know that they are unique,
Mhm.
that they are creative, and they are valuable.
Yes.
Right? Remember we talked about this worth, finding your worth?
Yes.
Mhm.
If you're able to sit in that space, if your child is able to sit in that space, it doesn't matter what anybody does around them.
Yeah.
Right? If we've given them those tools that we just talked about and they have a sense of self, of who they are, how important they are, then they will be heading in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And then, sorry?
I said absolutely.
Absolutely. And then in relation to the creator, right? And we're not going to have a theological discussion, but to know that there's something outside of themselves, right? That drives them
Mhm.
and that loves them
Right.
and that is concerned about them, is concerned not just about, they went to this big school or they got this big job, but concerned that I lost my whatever, right? Or I didn't get, somebody ate my last cookie or whatever the minutia they may think is in their lives.
Mhm.
Somebody cares about that.
Right.
That's how important you are.
Right.
That it's not
Yes.
just the big grand things, but it's anything that's going on in your life at this moment, somebody cares about.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see who's going to give our call to action tonight.
Gonna pivot it to Danita.
I'm gonna drink my juice right now.
Wow.
Sorry. I'll get it next week.
Call to action.
Isn't that interesting, Danita? It's her topic,
I know.
and she's punting it.
All right. Call to action. No problem. No problem. I just didn't think that they want to hear me nasal, but we good. We good. We understand each other.
We all take you in
So.
how you come.
So, call to action as I wipe my nose. Be the parent that you need to be for you and your child. Don't push yourself to be more than what you're ready for. Make a plan for where you want your life to go. Your child will see it Some will follow, some will not, some will make their own path. But if they do make their own path, just listen to what they have to say. Make that bond with your child, and it can be unbreakable, and you can do great things with your child. So, as a parent, those of you who are planning to be parents, those of you or who are parents, just do the best that you can for right now for you and your child, and everything else will fall into place.
Love it, love it, love it. Nasal and all.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, we thank you for joining us once again for another episode of Into the Woods. Make sure that you go back and listen to the other episodes that we have that are out on the channel. And then come on back for episodes that are going to be coming up. If you've not already done so, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so that you'll be notified when we have new content that's online. You can also send us a message into the woods at gmail.com. That's into the letter D, woods, WOODES at gmail.com. And let us know if there are topics that you want us to talk about. Right. So we'd love to welcome you to the channel. We're growing a community. We would love to have you join us. And as we move forward, because our goal, even though we may be in the woods, into the woods, is to come out of the woods. Thank you for being with us. This is Dwayne.
This is Denise.
This is Danita. Good night.
Good night, everybody.